Well, thanks for having me on the show, Sheila. And it was a great introduction. I really appreciate that. Lovely. So, today I want to talk about the antenna of the soul, encoded light, memory, and the journey through time. And so, I just want to begin by saying our DNA is not just a biological code, but it's a living antenna, a quantum receiver and transmitter, and it's constantly absorbing and broadcasting information from both your environment and the cosmos. And when DNA is physically removed, its energetic imprint, it remains. It's a kind of invisible holographic blueprint that continues to influence the matter. And so science reveals that genetic information, it really behaves non-locally, interacting through waves at a quantum level. And this information is encoded as quantum holograms. These are fields of light and sound that shape our biology and our experience. And if you can really think about hologram, it's like, when Princess Leia puts into R2D2 and it projects the imagery, right? So moving from, or we're moving from a carbon base into a crystalline being, and our DNA is really actually composed of liquid crystalline material. And what that does is it acts as a fractal antenna. It takes in holographic images and information from the ether, from the Akashic, and it translates it into electromagnetic fields of energy. And this is just like the antenna in your smartphone, actually. This is what organizes your physical body. And we know that language and intention affect our system. So there was a botanist, Luther Burbank, who famously convinced his cactus to stop growing spines just by speaking to it. So this really suggests that language and intent can shape biology. And I think we know this by now, that every thought, every word, every frequency we interact with leaves an imprint in the field. So I have this great joke. A photon is checking into a hotel, and the bellhop asks, "Do you need help with your luggage?" And the reply was, "No, thanks, I'm traveling light." Just had to share that with you. So this is how it works. When two energetic waves meet, acoustic and optical, it's like the double helix. They form a holographic field. So what is this? Well, holographic is it diffracts light into an image, like I was talking about before with R2D2, right? This holographic field is an invisible 3D pattern, and it acts as a blueprint for your body and your life. And these patterns, they shape matter, they guide healing, and even allow access to other dimensions of reality through resonance and intent. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But at the heart of this is your soul's blueprint. It's a multi-dimensional template encoded with your purpose, your gifts, and the memory of who you are. And through light codes, interdimensional contact, and biophotonic intelligence, we all have the ability to rewrite our narratives, transform our biology, and travel through time, through consciousness. This is how it happens. And this holographic realities, they shape our inner world by acting directly on the subconscious mind. It's encoded through the DNA, and they imprint the systems with virtual memories, forming the energetic templates that influence how we think and feel and function. And when we think of our body as actual matter, the physical actual body, at its core, it's really not solid. It's not solid at all. It's made of particles that are held together by invisible electromagnetic fields. So, if you're looking at yourself in an energy, you've got all these fields going on, and it does not generate consciousness, but instead it serves as a passive receiver of vibrational information. And this vibratory data, it transmits through light and sound, and it's what gives shape to the body. Remember, I told you about the man who actually told his cactus not to grow spines, right? So Our thoughts are transmitters, and we engage in dialogue every moment. And the words we speak to ourselves or ideas we absorb from our surroundings, we begin to really within ourselves imagine them as real. And the brain really doesn't decipher what to take in, it takes in all information. And in doing so, we encode those frequencies into our system like a form of hypnotic suggestion. So now I want to talk a little bit about the language of light. And I work in the language of light, and I have for many, many, many years, even before I even understood what it was or what the language was that was coming in. But the language of light, it's photons. Photon is light. It's a pocket or a quantum of pure energy, and it's the fastest known force in the universe. I often see them, like the energy of them as thin sticks or tubes coming in of light, like tiny light beams moving through space. And these photons aren't just floating aimlessly all over the place. The whole energy of the cosmos, it's not chaotic, it's really formed and organized, and they're a part of every living process in the body. And our cells, they actually emit biophotons, and these are tiny pulses of biological light that radiate from the tip of each cell, forming an invisible communication system with the body. We can't see them with the naked eye, but these biophotons are now measurable with sensitive scientific instruments. And we can really think of them as subtle forms of bioluminescence, like the glow of a jellyfish. Or sometimes you see like lightning bugs, and there are other species that actually glow. But jellyfish are really a perfect natural example. They not only emit light, but they're capable of regenerating their own tissues. And actually, science doesn't understand this completely. This is biological and also energetic, and it mirrors what I've seen and sensed in the Syrian systems. And on Sirius, light is the primary healing modality, and biophotonic communication is central to how beings regenerate, repair, and maintain coherence throughout their body and their energy field. So, from my contact experiences and work with interdimensional beings, including Sirian and Arcturian frequencies, it's clear that self repair is not just a biological process, but it's a conscious based one. And it's governed by coherent light, intention, and resonance. And right now, I'm working in a parallel time on Sirius in a lab, and that's Sirius B, by the way, because it's a water planet. But I'm working in this lab with others to understand about self-regeneration and repair. And they explain it to me, it's a bit like stem cell repair, a little bit, although you're not being injected with anything, where one cell literally copies another that is healthy. And this is done surpassing the mind, and it's done in nanoseconds. And it has to do with the environment and their own personal being, all in a harmonic state. And now, in my current time, right now, I'm doing some experimental work, and I'm working with someone to bring this particular technology into resources that we can have in our homes to affect our environment at a very minimal cost for people, because I want us to have this access and to work with it at the level in which we are all at. Everybody's at a different level. So it will meet you at your level. So these biophotons are not they're not random flickers. They're highly organized, actually, and they're coherent. And this means they carry structured information, and it communicates. It's linking us to a much larger web of life and intelligence. And in essence, our bodies are interdimensional receivers, and they're designed to interact with these light codes of information from higher dimensional realms. This is why we're moving into being a crystalline. This is so that we can work in these different realms and more of light. And so, on a practical level, this means that when we work with light consciously through intention, visualization, or frequency. We're not just simply imagining healing, although there's a lot to be said about imagining, but we're not really imagining it. We are interfacing with the actual mechanisms of regeneration, just as advanced beings on Sirius do. They don't heal by fixing what's broken. They're actually restoring harmony by realigning the light field, and they're activating the original blueprint that's held in the DNA and the etheric body. And this is why coherent light, whether it comes from within us or from sacred geometry or sound or celestial sources, wherever it's coming from, it is so vital that we understand it as well, and why it is vital to us as a being. It reorganizes the body, it reboots the field, and it helps us to return to our natural state of wholeness. It also suggests that the energy body exists before and beyond the physical form. So the physical form comes from the energy body. What does all of this mean? Okay, well, DNA serves as the blueprint. We all know that, right? And biophotons are the builders, both working through coherent light to shape the body. And that means you are actually more light than you are matter. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of the encounters and my work with interdimensional codes. And so through communication with interdimensional guides and fields of higher intelligence, and it's all different types of intelligence, they've given me access to coded information, and depending on who it's coming from as well, it's all different. And some of you know, I've been actually collaborating with a quantum biologist, Dr. Glenn Ryan, for several years now, and we focus on subtle energy research, particularly how different frequencies and sources affect the electrical conductivity in biological systems. So in essence, we've been exploring how energy, intention, and light influence DNA and water, both of which they are key mediums. They are what we are made up of, right? In fact, our body is made up of what, 80% water, somewhere around that number. And these key mediums are for storing and transmitting life information. So we've been working with a variety of high frequency sources, including, and not only, but including Mary Magdalene, the emissaries of light, the Arcturian commander Ashtar, and other dimensional beings, and light itself. And where does light come from? Light comes from source. And this is so that we can study their energetic impact, because this is important to us as human beings and where we are raising our energy levels to. So here are some of the key findings from our research. Engagement and activation is essential. Simply just placing the DNA that we were working with on sacred symbols and leaving it in the sun, it really created minimal change. It wasn't much of anything. However, once I activated the symbols, I engaged with them with intention, the energy of the DNA increased by 145%. And in this research, that's a substantial and measurable shift. So the same pattern occurred when working with these distinct interdimensional energies. Activation was key to really triggering measurable transformation. So we've done a lot of different experiments measuring all different types of function and information coming. One other aspect we learned was that when measuring DNA over a period of time after it was activated, the energy actually continued to become stronger. So we first measured it at 1 hour after, well, initially, and then 1 hour, and then I think we did 6 hours, and then 24, and so on. And it became stronger. And this suggests a sustained and cumulative interaction. I see it all the time with the people I work with. I see it in my own self too. I can I can vouch for this as this is happening. And other people have sent back information to me after a period of time saying, I'm still feeling what I began to feel early on. So that is really good to hear that, the proof is in the pudding. You can collect all the data you want, but if you're not actually feeling it, that's the most important, right? Frequency can be altered altogether. Now, this was really fascinating. The presence of the Arcturian commander Ashtar's energy not only amplified the field, but completely shifted the frequency signature of the DNA. So this shows how intelligent energy and light are as well. And it knows exactly what to do, even if you don't. So let's say you have a pain in your arm, but you really don't know what it is. So you call in the light, you call in your guide, you call in the help, whatever it is that you're calling in to do, and you intend, and you use your mantra or your information and you intend. You don't have to know what it does. You just have to leave it up to the energy to do because it's intelligent. So human DNA is built according to the laws of beauty and harmony, actually. But there is also chaos that disrupts the harmony. And we know this all the time, things that disrupt. So you can be in a certain place and suddenly see somebody in a grocery line, and maybe they're upset or they give you a dirty look, and it can change your field immediately, right? Or, for example, the nature of DNA being disrupted by transgenic manipulation. Now, this is a process of altering an organism's DNA by introducing foreign DNA from another species. So, this can come by way of vaccination. This can come by way of eating meat or something that other DNA enters in, our whole being knows what should be and shouldn't be in our system. The laws of beauty and harmony are then violated, and human vibes become very chaotic mixture and of different sounds. It's like tuning into the radio, but you're getting fuzzy signals, right? And then we begin to suffer on a physical level because, like I said earlier, your field is creating your physical. So another experience we did, I transmitted light into tap water. We just thought this would be a fun experiment. Very simple, actually. So we took tap water, H2O, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, very simple molecular compound, right? And I see the light, like I was talking before, I see these streams, these tubes coming in of light, and I can see them entering the water. And the water was in a crystalline structure. Okay, we always work in a crystalline structure. And that's because the crystalline structure holds whatever information is coming in. And so I began to see the molecules change and rearrange very simply into H3O2, which is 3 hydrogens, 2 oxygens. Now you think, well, that's probably not that much different, but it is. It is different because now it's what's called structured water. And I asked why. I asked the light, why? Very simply, it said, in order for the body to hold more light. So it was really showing me what and how it does this in a very simple form. It took something that I could actually see and very simply showed me how it does it. And this suggests the intelligence and the knowledge of what needs to take place. So I thought this was like amazing when I saw this. I loved it because if it can do it in a very simple manner like that, it can also do it to your whole system. Yeah, so this leads me to the nature of 0 point and wormholes. And these are the mechanisms or the mechanics of transformation. So, at the core of this is something called 0 point. And I'm sure everybody's heard of this. But 0 point is a state of pure presence. It's it's a still point within where all timelines really collapse into one moment of awareness. And it's a field of infinite potential. It's a state of consciousness. And when you touch it, even briefly, everything becomes possible: healing, clarity, time travel, regeneration, and reconnection with your whole soul blueprint. All of it originates here. So you might ask, how do we do this? How do we access such a state? One way is through wormholes, natural passages through space and time that can connect distant points across dimensions. These are not just theoretical, though. We're now learning this. They are energetic gateways, and they're not something you may be able to see. Many of them are powered by toroidal fields, this ring-shaped energy field that many of you know, that loop and spin. They're a vortex of light energy. And in the core, they act as an invisible tunnel where coded light can travel across dimensions and access nonlinear time as well. So here's an example of what something like this can bring about. I was called into a hospital, this is some years ago, where a woman, she was a nurse in a hospital. She was a little bit older, in her 60s, and she had gone head over her handlebars and fell into a gravel pit and became paralyzed from the neck down. I love this example because it's an amazing example and it really hits home. Um, she was paralyzed. She could move her head, she could move her pinky, I think a little bit of her toe. And what I did, I was called into the hospital. I didn't know her, and asked if I could do some work with her. And this is many years ago before Zoom was really being used. So I went in physically to work with her, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you're physically with somebody or you're just remotely working with them. I opened up the wormhole where the accident happened. This is forms a stagnant moment imprinted in that field. And I opened to the fear and I disengaged it. And what we did, or how we did this, is that we began to talk. I began to explain what I was seeing and what was happening. And she began to tell me that she was swimming and she was moving physically, literally moving her body. There were witnesses in the room that could literally see her moving her arms and her legs. Now, my eyes are closed, so I'm not seeing this happening, but I could hear her talking and I could feel the energy movement. So, as she's moving her body, the energy's moving through her. And long story short, she walked out of that hospital 6 weeks later. So I tell you this because so much is possible. We must learn more. When something is brought to our consciousness, its imprinted energy can transform, or we can transform it. And when you begin to remember, or you begin to open these stagnant energies, we become the creator of our timeline. We're not just the traveler, we're actually doing it. And as a person's frequency stabilizes and raises, their matrix of consciousness becomes capable of resonating with these portals, allowing access to expanded timelines and dimensions. And that's exactly what she was doing. She was outside of time and space, and she was literally, and what was really funny is that she actually said to me, this, you're not going to believe this, but she said, I actually am afraid of swimming. But here it is. All the fear kind of dribbled away, right? And she was in this moment and moving that energy, that stagnant energy of where this imprint held itself. So when your energy resonates with the right frequency, the portals open and you can enter into another dimension or parallel. And each frequency is specific and often very personalized. And when we do this, we not only raise our vibration, but we also unlock the dormant aspects of our spiritual DNA. Now, this brings me to how I have accessed this and then how I visit the Galactic Federation ship. It's kind of all intertwined, just depends on what your intention is and where you want to go as you're opening and accessing these portals, right? So they're just different doorways, really. We don't want to get really too, crazy technical, but that's just kind of what it is. So let me take you inside. I want to explain to you what I see. I can see the visual begin to form in front of me, and it's like rippling. It's like as if you've ever seen a heat wave where the heat is so strong that it forms this illusion. And this energy becomes wavy and it's alive, and I step into it. Immediately, I'm pulled into a timeline that I'm resonating with. I can feel myself resonating with it, and I see myself in the cosmos. And suddenly, I'm being pulled upward, and I can feel myself going up, up, up through this beam of light. And I'm being lifted into a ship, and it's a large one, and I feel safe. And what this ship feels like a mothership, we'll call it. It's not a craft, it's a ship. And it holds many species. It's kind of what you call the Galactic Council or a UN of interdimensional beings, which are gathered for many, many purposes. And it's not just for Earth, but many purposes. And so as I enter the ship, I begin to see and sense the presence of many beings. And I'm I'm moving along. And the first being I see is a mer being from Sirius. Well, that stands to reason because I have this close connection to Sirius. And it's an aquatic yet very intelligent being, and it radiates this deep calmness to me. Then I meet or see a tall figure in a blue robe with white hair, and it's human-like facial features, and it feels very wise and kind of ancient. And so then I meet or I see a mantis being and others that look like insectoid, but I don't engage with them. I sense a presence also of a blue avian, though they're not showing themselves quite fully at that very moment when I was there, but I feel a connection to them. There's a large hairy being there, and it almost looks a little bit like a Chewbacca, but its face is all hidden. I can't see its face, but kind of hair the way it comes down like that. Then I see just a little farther away also, is this rock-like being. And again, when being on this mothership, your own feelings kind of come in, and you don't want to have judgment because I'm thinking to myself, a rock-like being. We think of rocks, yes, they're alive, but we don't think of them as being a being, right? But this is a very dense and strong being. It's like a living stone, but it has its purpose there on the mothership. And a few resemble something that looks a little bit like the Greys, but it's very different. And now this is only a small sample of what's represented here on this mothership. Some are familiar, others are unlike anything I've ever seen before. And then comes along this lion-like presence. It's upright, it's walking on two legs, it's radiating this very regal but protective energy. It's a very interesting energy. Another is less physical. It's more like a light shadow, and it holds a very immense energy capacity. It's just a little bit shadow-like. You feel its presence. It's not a dark presence at all. It's a very high, beautiful energy intensity. And then there's this other incredibly tall being. It's massive. So you say to yourself in your mind, how can this fit on the ship? But it does. It's massive. It's just such an interesting place to be. And when I'm there, I'm kind of like in awe of the whole thing. And now I'd like to talk about the ship for a minute. And now I've engaged with several ships, but this one, it exists in a different dimensional space and it deploys smaller crafts into our world and then elsewhere in other places. And these crafts, they're observers, they're collectors of information, they're measuring energy shifts and societal changes, whatever they may be, wherever they're going. And one thing they're doing is they're watching, they're waiting, they're choosing when the right time will come to make their presence known more directly. And this is coming sooner than later. And they communicate this clearly to me. And this is what they say. Just as it took time for human society to accept people of different races and cultures, and just know how many years this has taken in our world right now, the merging of galactic and human presence will also require great emotional and vibrational maturity. It demands a level of acceptance where we're still developing. So this is why it hasn't quite come about yet. So one of the people that I was working with, and this is quite recent because I don't remember back too far. I don't hold all that energy information in my head and memory. But this client, this is a person who was taken on board the ship. I did not put her on the ship. The interdimensionals brought her there, and she has breast cancer and renal failure. And while she was there, and this is only a little snippet of her whole experience with the interdimensional codes, she had never seen an alien in her imagery before. But suddenly she started to feel and see the visuals of the aliens, we'll call it. She called them aliens. I call them interdimensionals. And she had never had this before. And she said that they were very sweet and they were kind of like a gray black with rounded heads. Now, I've never seen these beings before until we were there. And they had long extremities. She felt herself like she thought she was a little crazy. Again, that's the judgment coming in. But she felt herself interfacing with their energy, and they were helping her to awaken to her divine nature. And she felt like she was filled with light, and she had a remembrance of her innocence, that she came here to earth when she was really little and what she now had to grow through. So this innocence needing to take form, but yet have this remembrance of it. And what they told me is that they were doing intricate work with her. She was in a regeneration room to be worked on, and they were scanning and regenerating her body. I could see her body, and it was a type of energy running through her entire body, and that it penetrates all the systems. So even though I could just see the body, it was extending to all of her systems. And it looks like it was actually just filling her up, like as if fluid was filling her up. And they were using some type of gadget to attune her. And as this was happening, I asked her what she was feeling, and she said she was experiencing a tingling all over, and she felt like she was in a bubble, like it was a very safe bubble. It felt very good to her, and she expressed it like it was like being in a womb. So that's a very safe place most of the time. So here is another aspect of another interdimensional ship. And, um, people, let's see. So people often give me things to read. They hand me objects, they ask me to read things, and it sometimes they're funny what they give me. But this person handed me a crystal and asked me to read it. I've actually been handed a vial of sand or dirt where a spaceship had landed as well, and I could pick up all the information about where it was from and about the ship and all that. But this particular one, they handed me a crystal and asked what was I receiving. Um, and I knew it was another ship immediately. I could see it, I could feel it. Um, and I'm in contact with this. And this place where it's from is called Trenton. And this one is quite different. Its frequency is highly radioactive, but not in a harmful or toxic sense. It's more like a potent vibrational current. And it's a living transmitter of advanced intelligence and technology. And it radiates a field that you literally can feel. And it doesn't just communicate with language, it communicates with consciousness. So what's most intriguing that I felt is that I actually have a piece of this crystal, of this ship. And it's really interesting that when it landed on Earth, it took the form of this crystal structure. It looks like any other clear quartz crystal, but in this crystalline structure, it's very solid, it's prismatic, it's radiating a subtle energy. But when it is in what we'll call space or another dimension, this same material behaves very differently. It's more fluid. And when I say fluid, it's not the kind of fluid like when you pour water into something, not that kind of fluid. It's so hard to describe because there's nothing here on earth to gauge that to, but it has this fluidity, and it's energetic and it's morphogenetic, meaning it adapts to its environment, and it's alive, it's intelligent, and it's responsive with me. And the ship communicates directly through frequency and resonance, and it passes information straight into my brain and into my energy field, and it bypasses language. So it's all, conscious and telecommunication that way, and or telepathy. And it's vibrational data that actually it begins to adjust my perception. And it's almost like it's tuning me in, like I talked about the radio station, like clearing out that fuzziness and and tuning me into how I see, feel, and interpret the reality of the ship. So it's a certain resonance, right? It's a certain frequency, and it has direct access to my mind. But this is not in an invasive way. It's collaborative, and it works with me, helping me to evolve as well. And I can feel it altering the fluidity of my thoughts. In other words, where my judgment or my thought might get hung up on something as a human being, it's like it's disengaging outdated programming, and it's rearranging my internal systems for better clarity. It's really not just a vessel, but it's a conscious intelligence, and it's alive. And that's the most amazing thing, is that these ships, they are alive, just like anything else is alive, and that's how the interaction happens. So I want to share a little bit about another client that came to me. She could not take a shower. She didn't understand why she had such anxiety standing under a shower, right? And she found herself in another timeline when we worked together, and not from this world, but she first went to a place where it was beautiful. It was like what I would liken it to, the Garden of Eden. Okay. It was just a beautiful inhabiting place. Okay. And, and she knew this is the place that she was from. And she just felt one with everything. Right. And this is this beautiful experience that light brings us into, this experience of the oneness of everything. It's hard to describe when you feel one with everything, but you are everything in a sort of way. And so then she began to see herself in this particular, not current time, but in the time of Earth. And she was at a concentration camp, and she was taking on all of the experiences of the people around her. and the fears were being, like I call it, sucked into her. And so first, her energy was that she would know who she is and then understand what she is doing here. And she came with Lyme disease, and this is why her whole body was in so much pain, because she was taking on all the pain of those that were happening around her. And what she actually didn't even know all of this, but that she was experiencing just a little snippet of this when she would stand in the shower. She would have just that little experience of, I can't do this. I cannot stand under this shower. So when all this energy opened up, she began to understand it more, and it was able to clear her system so that she no longer had the pain of all these people that she was experiencing. I know what this feels like firsthand. I remember back in a time when I lived in New York State, and we built a house on a beautiful acreage, 14 acres of land. And I one day felt a calling to, in the back of the land, to this tree. And I just leaned up against it. And this was before my real second awakening, I'll call it, spiritually. I was called to this tree. I leaned up against it, and suddenly I bilocated into another time. And now that means feeling two times or knowing two times at once, one kind of one leg in one and one in the other, if you will. And there was this whole happening of one small Native American party, war party, coming after a whole tribe and had killed many of them. And there were a lot of wandering spirits from the destruction, and I could feel them. And what happened is they all went sucked into me, this energy. And you know, long story short, without going into all of it, it's the most amazing thing that it happened so split second that you really don't understand what's going on, and it's your job. You have to clear it. So it was part of my learning experience as well, just like it was hers. She needed to understand and learn what was standing under the shower. Why was this so problematic for her? So we all come into this in our own way. And there was another woman I'm going to share with you. Her name was Carol, and she flew in from Texas to see me. And she had multi generations of gray abductions within her family, cross pregnancies, harvestings in the family, 5 generations. And she wanted to know, what is their intention? Why does she have a blocked memory? And she felt very drained of her happiness. And how did they take your DNA? She just wanted to know all of it. And she couldn't find the answer to this. What is her connection to the cosmic lineage and ancestry and her ET hybrid children? So she wanted to know why this was happening. And when I worked with her, I could see her also up on the ship, and the surgery that was happening between her and the Greys, and understanding that there was really no conscience to the Greys. They had sort of lost their conscience. It had been through time removed. So they didn't feel what they were doing to her, or this particular species of the Greys, I'll say, because they're not all the same. And it didn't affect them. They had no realization they were really hurting her, or how this was affecting her life, or multi generations back. So I could see her lying on the table, and after the procedure, one of them was actually creating musical tones. And I told it, do not hurt her. She is a soul, and you don't have the right to hurt her. And her soul has the right to be free. She deserves to be free. And it said to me, do not interfere with our work here. And it said this to me 3 times. And then I heard a voice, because I could feel myself being really bothered about this. And I heard a voice within, and the voice said to me, Don't get angry, or you will lose your power. Instead, ask the light to come. And I did just that. And so this began to clear. It began to, when she came from this, and there's more to the story, but the ultimate what happened is when she was able to finally come through all of that and then come back into current time, she had such an overwhelming sense of more sovereignty to herself, more control of herself. She had more imagery, and what was happening. She understood it better. She actually saw a lot of lights, who were her ancestors in the cosmos. Um, it was a great experience for her. So, there are so many different ways for us to explore. We have to find the right way that we can explore to access our blueprint, because it's all about coming back to our blueprint to know who we are and why we're here and what we are to do with this here, because oftentimes it's not the happening that's as is important as what we do about it. So I'd like to just, kind of pull this together and say, as we awaken to our multidimensional nature, we begin to remember that the keys to healing, to time travel, and transformation they've always been inside of us. And these codes are active, and they're portals that are opening now more and more. And now is the time to step into the resonance with who you are, as a cosmic being, here to embody the light of your soul's blueprint. So thank you so much, Sheila, for having me today. It's been such a pleasure to bring what I've learned, and I'm looking forward to bringing more. Like I said earlier, I'm working on some product that people can use in their household and with them that will help people open to these codes. And if I might, I also bring people on sacred tours to different places globally, so that these places are of high frequency and they may experience other timelines. They may experience that the portal, the gateway is open to connect you to the cosmos. In July, we're going to Sacred Avalon in Wales, and then upcoming early next year, we will be going to Egypt. So um, they're great places to have these experiences, and they're life changing. So again, thank you, Sheila. It's been a super pleasure to be here.